Welcome back to Preparing for the Unexpected. Today we are talking with Dr. Stephen Goldman about successful drills and exercises. Steve, great first segment. In your presentation at the conference where I saw you speak, you talked about there being politics in drills and exercises. What did you mean by that?
Well, as you can imagine, anything which takes people away from their daily job and puts them in a situation they're not familiar with or almost afraid of, there's going to be some feedback. And also, one of the things you as a business continuity manager have to understand is who supports you, who wants you to succeed, who doesn't support you, who wants you to fail, and then who really doesn't care. Right. And then, like any job in any organization, you got to deal with that. And when I was a global business continuity manager, I mean, everyone, we all had all three. And the ones who supported me, I treated well. I took them out for lunch and blah, blah, blah. And the ones who didn't, I just had to go talk with them and just say, look, what's your problem? Why aren't you supporting this? Or, is it me, something I did? And, we generally worked it through. I wasn't a 100% successful on my religious conversion, but at least I got them to come over to the dark side, as it were. The other thing is, business continuity, crisis management. You're not a profit center. I've been told that, and my clients have been told that many times. You're not a profit center. My department of operations, we make the money, you spend it. And so the answer to that is simple. It's like, well, we're a fire extinguisher. I hope every year we never have to activate. My best year is I go through, you go through training and drills, and the plan is never activated. So I'm planning not to work. And okay, but it's like a fire extinguisher. If you need one, it had better work. It had better work well, and the fire responders had better know how to use it properly. And that's what this is all about. So sure, we're not a profit, but neither is that fire extinguisher over there. Why is that there? In case we need it. Bingo. In case we have a crisis, in case we need to relocate, in case whatever, we're ready to go. And they understand that. One time during a drill, the senior vice president of finance came up to my client head, the guy I was working for, and said, do you know how much this is costing the company every hour? And it was like, what are you going to say? Of course. It's part of the cost of doing business. It was a 4-hour drill. At the board and all the senior executives, it was very expensive from an hourly point of view, but it's part of their jobs. It's part of their job. So it's just part of the stuff you have to deal with. Again, you use the fire extinguisher analogy. That tends to work quite a bit. Works well. Works well.
If someone asked me about how expensive this is, going, well, how expensive is it if I you shut everything off and you can't do business?
Yeah.
Then how expensive is it?
And that's where your business impact analysis comes in. You should have some of those numbers.
Yeah.
If we lose the wire or the cloud for an hour, a day, a week, what's it going to cost the company? So you've got some numbers, like you said. These are the real numbers. It's going to cost.
And then it links to, you have a contingency plan and, all these other things that are in place as well.
Exactly right.
So
exactly right. So they see the value of it. Again, that
right.
Corporate fire extinguisher.
Yeah, and we're not picking on finance, by the way, because I used finance as an example, and so did you. So, nobody in finance.
We can pick on anybody.
We're not picking on anybody. It just happened to be that way. So,
that's right.
You mentioned you having to go talk with people and get them to come to the dark side, as it were. I guess for it with the political aspect and the drills and exercises, we kind of have to make them see what's in it for them, what the benefit is, right? Like you gave a good example with the fire extinguisher, but they have to realize and understand, hey, this is why we should do it, exercises and drills.
Yeah, that's right. And so that's why I recommend that every tabletop, every exercise, make sure everybody has a disaster to deal with. So if you're working with ransomware, that's easy because everyone's affected by loss of the network. If you're doing a first aid drill, a workplace violence drill, well, pick on finance, HR would be involved. Finance, operations, some other group, IT, may not be involved in workplace violence. So you find something else where they see the importance of what you're doing. So Yeah, two or three bad things happen on the same day at the same time. Yeah, bad day at the office, but that's the way it is. Respond. So they've got to see the value in it of that. Exactly right.
I did a tabletop back in September, and we had the person I was reporting to wanted to keep everything bunnies and rainbows. I didn't support that. I still had to do it. That's what they wanted. That he's the one paying the bill, so
Yeah.
I didn't like it. So at the very end, I just had a list of all the attendees and randomly dropped my pen on a name to see pick 5 people who would your decisions have been the same if these 5 people weren't there? And the last person I mentioned was the most critical person in the room that my pen dropped on. Just by accident, I looked away,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, it clicked with everybody that, uh-oh, they they suddenly realized they were dealing with assumptions in this tabletop.
Yeah.
That so and so will take
Right.
care of that. So and so will do this. We'll
Yeah,
just
exactly.
defer to so and so, and then my pen just happened to drop on that person and took them out and asked, "Would
Yeah.
you still do the same thing?"
Yeah. This, and if I can do an aside, so to speak, this is why when you do drills and exercises, you need to drill down. You need to see the consequences of the decisions. One tabletop drill I did for an organization, in their ransomware response plan, it said they will be in charge of communications. I think I mentioned this earlier. They were going to go hire a call center. They were going to hire a PR firm to do communications for the organization. And that was an intro. All right, when we did a tabletop drill, and communications department goes, "What?" And the language was rather colorful about, "No, I don't think so," in much more colorful language. But the communication was blindsided by this. So imagine if this happened in a real event, that to get two competing communications. I did a ransomware drill at a hospital, a series of hospitals in New England. And again, I dig down, I look at the plans, I look at the procedures, I look at their operating procedures, and I found out if the IT network goes down, so does all the hospital systems. So it's not just Amazon's down or whoever's down, let's IT deal with it. There were consequences. And so I traced it down with some IT people and some medical people. And it turns out that in the emergency room and in the patient room, when you check into a hospital, you hooked up to the network, all these screens and everything, they all blanked, they all zeroed out. And so if they lose the network, everyone's going to think they died. All the monitors are going to go with a flat line. They didn't know that.
Wow.
And so yeah. And so IT, they did their drill, they did happy, joy, but they didn't realize the ramifications of losing the IT network. And that's why we drill down. That's why this is so important, because the previous consultant, actually the previous 2 consultants, never went that deep. I do. And it was just horrible, because they were happy. Oh yeah, call up Amazon, get this back, pull this switch, all the technical stuff, sure, but nothing about ramifications. And again, Alex, that's why this is so important.
Is that also because a lot of times we just walk into these drills and exercises with a lot of assumptions? I know I kind of mentioned it a while ago, but I think maybe that's a part of it too, is that we just assume something.
Yeah. We assume HR is going to do this. We assume finance, finance is going to do that. You can't. You got to have HR and finance and the others. They're saying we're relying upon you to do this, or according to your procedure. Even getting hotels and dinners for the responders, because it's a 24-hour operation. And I've had several times HR goes, "Oh yeah, it says we're supposed to do that. How do we do that?" I don't know. That's your job. You figure it out.
Yeah.
And they realized, okay, so we have to have like a sub procedure, an appendix in our procedure, how to get food, how to get hotel rents, hotel for the responders. Again, exactly right. That's why we do this.
I remember working for one company way back when, about 20 years ago. We had food and hotel and taxi, and Uber didn't exist back then, but some sort of hiring almost a limo type service to pick people up if we had to. We even made a verbal agreement with a bus company that could go in a central location where a lot of the staff lived, that they could just drive to the parking lot. We pick them up, because the same thing happened. They had a situation and it took them forever to get people there. And then when they were there, people were going, I'm hungry.
Yep.
And we're looking around going, what do we do?
Yeah, exactly right. When I was in Silicon Valley, BC manager, earthquakes, roads are dead, can't get out. And so we had 3 days worth of food, clothing, everything in storage, outside storage bunker. So we call it a bunker, but it was a large, like it was like a truck, a shipping container. There we go, for each building. But like they said, hope we never had to use it, but if we needed to, we were there. And in fact, security was so concerned, we were so prepared that neighboring high-tech companies were going to come over to us and use our stuff. So security had to take care of that. But again, better to figure out now than when the earthquake occurs. Absolutely.
What you mentioned something, you talked about 24 hours there. You made that reference. I think that's something else that gets forgotten about in drills and exercises too, is, and I've experienced it, everybody wants to be a part of it right off the bat. And then 8, 10, 12 hours go by and everyone's starting to get tired and cranky. Well, who's coming in for you?
Yeah. Right. That's why in the plans, you have to have at least one backup, if not two, per position. And a person backing up, say the crisis management team leader, can't be the primary position in someplace else. So you got to have like a completely new team coming in to do that. And during my drills and exercise, I test that. We do a turnover. About 2/3 of the way through, it's okay. Shift change. I have more formal way of doing it, but shift change and turnovers are not easy.
Yeah.
Turnovers, do you do it like all at once, or do you do it like staggered so you have at least some people remember what's going on?
Yeah.
And I found that staggered is better because at least there's some mental or history of what happened, and not just new people coming in, stuff like that. My olden days in nuclear emergency planning, FEMA would have 5-year requirements. Every 5 years we had to do an off hours drill. Every 5 years we had to start between midnight and 6 in the morning. And yeah, that got a lot of people, got religion to a lot of people. Like, oh yeah, this is serious. When I was a responder, I remember 2 or 3, 4 times, 3 o'clock in the morning, I get the phone call. This just occurred. Okay, activate the team. Let's go. That's my job. That's what I had to do.
Yeah. And most disasters, crises occur off business hours. It's not 9 to 5.
Yeah.
That period only makes up what, 23% of the week. So
right.
what do you think is going to happen the rest of the 77%?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, no, it's true.
I do agree with you on the staggered approach. What we did once, from actually having everybody change all at the same time, the people that were there for 12 hours had to hang around for an hour while getting not just their backup up to speed, but having to bring all the other people together. So they ended up, there 13, 14 hours, while that happened. So the staggered approach actually works better because it's quicker to actually make that flip over, because if they have a question, there's everyone around them has already been there for a while. So they're able to answer the question a lot quicker. And we found it worked. The staggered approach worked a lot better.
Yeah. And what I do, it's a bit of a simulation, but in my drills, when I can, if I have the primary team working, I put the secondary team around the walls watching, so they can see the decisions, the thought processes, literally the power that these people have. So when they take over, they understand. And then the primaries sit around the corner, around the room, and watch the secondaries, and they learn a lot from that too, just watching other people doing their job. And they see the interaction. So again, these are golden opportunities to train people, and this works well because it carries into day-to-day operations.
Mm-hmm. You bring up an interesting point with people sitting around either the room or in the operation center, wherever the teams happen to be located throughout your exercise. What would you say with having what are they called, observers there to take notes and decisions of things that are going on that sometimes don't get captured in the heat of the moment when you're trying to fix an issue that always crops up when you're doing one of these exercises? Then our network's not recognizing XYZ, and everyone starts talking about that, but that's something that the resolution or the cause of that doesn't get captured as to what actually happened. So what are your thoughts on observers?
Oh, absolutely. The hierarchy kind of monitoring the drill is controllers who control what's going on and make sure people don't go off the deep end with a response, or actually call someone when it should be this is a drill. Evaluators do just that. They evaluate what's going on up to they evaluate to the procedure and then to real life. Okay, the procedure says do this, but nah, in real life we're going to do that. Fine, we need to make a procedure change. Observers, kind of, you can call them evaluators or observers, sit and watch, capture things, make notes, and like you said, if they see IT not doing something they should be doing, great, add that to the evaluation. A lot of my drills, controllers and evaluators are kind of the same person. They have the objectives and they take their notes, and the observers kind of evaluate. And I always ask for their input at the end during the critique. So yeah, you got to do that. Otherwise, when you're involved in something, you don't have that big picture look, which is, like you said, the observers, evaluators can see. Absolutely.
Well, we're going to talk more about some of that post exercise in our next segment, because I have a question for you about that.
Okay.
So based on that, we've come to the end of our second segment. Today, we're talking with Dr. Stephen Goldman about successful drills and exercises, and we will be right back. If you liked that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.